Welcome everyone to today's heartfelt story. After a sweet and emotional proposal, CEO Tuan and Tieu Hue officially step into married life with a simple yet love-filled registration ceremony. From the sacred moment of signing their marriage certificate to the small but meaningful gestures in their daily life and ending with their warm first dinner together, everything paints a picture of a gentle yet deeply touching love. This is not just a love story, but a journey of connection, understanding, and building happiness from the simplest moments. If you enjoy sincere and emotional love stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more touching stories in the future. After the emotional proposal that left both of their hearts trembling with joy, CEO Tuan gently but firmly held Tieu Hue's hand as they stepped into the marriage registration office. The atmosphere around them felt almost surreal, quiet, formal, yet filled with an invisible warmth that only they could truly feel. Tuan's heart beat faster than ever before, a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation coursing through him. For a man who had faced countless high-stakes business decisions without hesitation, this moment felt far more overwhelming. Because this time, it wasn't about success or failure. It was about love, about forever. His eyes never left Tieu Hue. She stood beside him in a simple yet elegant dress, her beauty not defined by luxury but by the purity and sincerity radiating from within. There was a soft glow in her eyes, one that spoke of trust, of faith, and of a love so deep that words could barely contain it. Tuan couldn't help but tighten his grip on her hand slightly, as if reassuring himself that she was truly there, that this wasn't just a dream he would wake up from. In that moment, nothing else in the world mattered. No business deals, no responsibilities, no outside noise, just the two of them, standing at the threshold of a new life together. As their names were called, they approached the desk side by side. The official procedure felt almost symbolic, yet incredibly meaningful. When the marriage certificate was placed before them, Tuan paused for a brief second. His mind flashed back to all the moments they had shared, the laughter, the misunderstandings, the times they stood by each other through difficulties. Every memory led them to this exact point. With a deep breath, he picked up the pen and signed his name with unwavering certainty. It wasn't just a signature, it was a promise, a vow that he would spend the rest of his life loving and protecting the woman beside him. Tieu Hue followed, her hand slightly trembling as she signed her name next to his, but there was no fear in her heart, only a quiet determination and a deep sense of peace. When the final stroke of the pen was complete, it felt as if time itself paused to witness their union. In that instant, they were no longer just two individuals in love. They had become husband and wife, bound not only by emotion, but also by law, by commitment, and by an unbreakable bond. Tuan turned to her immediately after, his eyes soft yet filled with intensity. Leaning closer, he whispered gently, "From today on, you are my whole world." His voice carried a sincerity that needed no embellishment. Tieu Hue didn't respond with grand words. Instead, she smiled, a gentle, radiant smile, and squeezed his hand in return. That simple gesture spoke volumes, conveying trust, love, and a silent promise that she would walk beside him through every chapter of life. In that quiet office, surrounded by ordinary walls and simple procedures, something extraordinary had just been born, a lifelong journey of love, partnership, and unwavering devotion. As they stepped out of the marriage registration office, the world outside seemed brighter than before, as if the sunlight itself had come to celebrate their union. The warm, golden rays gently wrapped around Tuan and Tieu Hue, casting soft shadows that moved in harmony with their steps. Walking side by side, neither of them rushed. It was as though they both wanted to stretch this moment for as long as possible, to fully absorb the quiet happiness now filling their hearts. Tuan glanced at Tieu Hue constantly, a soft smile lingering on his lips. Even the smallest details about her seemed more precious than ever, The way a strand of her hair fell across her cheek, the gentle rhythm of her breathing, the calm yet radiant expression on her face. Without a word, he reached out and carefully brushed her hair back into place, his fingers lingering for just a second longer than necessary. "The wind is a bit playful today," he said lightly, his voice warm with affection. Tieu Hue looked up at him, her eyes shining, and smiled in a way that made his heart feel impossibly full. When they reached the car, Tuan instinctively stepped ahead to open the door for her. It was a small gesture, one he had done countless times before, but today it carried a deeper meaning. Every action now felt like a reflection of his role, not just as a partner, but as a husband who wanted to care for her in every possible way. He placed his hand gently above the doorframe as she got in, making sure she wouldn't accidentally bump her head. Only after she was comfortably seated did he close the door softly, as if handling something fragile and precious. As he walked around to the driver's seat, Tuan couldn't help but glance back at her again through the window. Tieu Hue was watching him too, her gaze filled with quiet admiration and warmth. When he got into the car, she immediately reached into her bag and handed him a bottle of water. "You've been busy all morning," she said softly. "You should drink something." Her voice was gentle, yet filled with genuine concern. Tuan accepted it with a grateful smile, their fingers brushing briefly, sending a subtle warmth through both of them. Before starting the car, he noticed a small bead of sweat forming on her forehead. Without hesitation, he took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped it away. "Are you tired?" he asked, his tone laced with tenderness. Tieu Hue shook her head lightly, though her eyes revealed a hint of fatigue. "A little," she admitted, "but I'm happy." Her answer was simple, yet it carried a sincerity that made Tuan's chest tighten with emotion. They began their drive, the silence between them not empty, but peaceful, filled with unspoken understanding. Occasionally, their hands would find each other, fingers intertwining naturally, as if they had always belonged that way. There was no need for grand declarations or dramatic expressions. In the quiet exchange of glances, in the gentle smiles, in the thoughtful gestures they shared, their love spoke clearly and deeply. In that moment, it became undeniable. They were no longer just two people in love navigating life separately. They had become each other's home, each other's comfort, and each other's strength. And in the simplicity of that drive under the warm afternoon sun, their journey as husband and wife had truly begun. That evening, as the sky slowly shifted into shades of amber and deep blue, Tuan and Tieu Hue returned to their small, cozy home, a place that, from this moment on, truly belonged to both of them. There was something different in the air, something warmer and more intimate than ever before. It was no longer just a familiar space. It had become the starting point of their shared life as husband and wife. Even the simplest aletheia, like the soft glow of the lights or the quiet hum of the evening, felt more meaningful. Tieu Hue gently placed her bag down and tied her hair back as she stepped into the kitchen, naturally slipping into a sense of comfort and belonging. Tuan followed closely behind, unwilling to let her out of his sight for even a moment. "Let me help," he said softly, rolling up his sleeves. Though he was a CEO used to leading meetings and making big decisions, here he was simply a man wanting to share every small task with the woman he loved. They began preparing dinner together, their movements occasionally clumsy but filled with laughter. At one point, Tuan tried to cut vegetables but clearly lacked the skill, causing Tieu Hue to laugh softly as she guided his hand. "Careful," she teased, her voice light and affectionate. "I don't want our first dinner as married couple to end with a trip to the hospital." Tuan chuckled, slightly embarrassed but completely at ease. "As long as you're with me, I'll be fine," he replied, his eyes filled with warmth. The kitchen soon filled with the comforting aroma of home-cooked food, blending with the soft sound of their laughter. Every now and then their hands would brush, or they would pause just to look at each other, as if silently confirming that this happiness was real. There was no need for luxury or extravagance, just being together like this was more than enough. As Tieu Hue focused on stirring a pot on the stove, Tuan quietly stepped closer behind her. Without warning, he wrapped his arms gently around her, pulling her into a soft embrace. She froze for a brief second, then relaxed into him, a smile forming on her lips. Resting his chin lightly on her shoulder, he whispered, "I promise I'll always protect you and love you for the rest of my life." His voice was low, sincere, and filled with unwavering determination. Tieu Hue slowly turned around within his embrace, her eyes meeting his. There was a depth of emotion in her gaze, love, trust, and a quiet certainty that she had chosen the right person to walk beside her forever. She leaned her head gently against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. It was warm, reassuring, and incredibly real. "I know," she whispered softly, her voice barely above a breath. Later, they sat down together to enjoy the meal they had prepared, exchanging smiles and small conversations that felt effortlessly natural. Between bites, their eyes would meet, and they would laugh without needing a reason. It was in these simple, ordinary moments that their love shined the brightest. From the way their fingers intertwined across the table to the gentle glances and quiet care they showed one another, everything spoke of a love that was both tender and strong. It was not loud or dramatic, but deeply rooted and enduring. In that peaceful evening, within the warmth of their home, Tuan and Tieu Hue were no longer just in love. They were living a life of shared happiness, protected not only by law, but by the unwavering devotion of their hearts.